Hello and welcome to another lesson in Cisco network devices. In this lesson I'm going to discuss something termed router on a stick. That's where we can take separate VLANs which normally cannot communicate with each other even though they're on the same switch. But what we do with the router is something called inter-VLAN routing. We take a single line and we trunk it. It will be called a trunk line. It'll be able to carry the individual separate VLANs communication to the router and through something called sub-interfaces. Now, so we take one physical router interface and we make multiple logical, what they call sub-interfaces through configuration on this one physical interface. So, but in interest of time, I'm only going to do one of these VLANs. The other two have been configured, so what you would do is just repeat the configuration commands for the remaining two. So we'll show how to configure sub-interface for VLAN 10. All right, so the first thing we do is we open up our command line interface for the router. And we will go into the global configuration mode. And now we want to do something called, we want to configure a sub-interface. So we'll select the physical interface, go interface FA00. Well, actually, what we will do is we'll configure this interface. There is one command we must do first, and I have to show you that. We have to ensure that there is no IP address applied to the physical interface. We'll have interfaces associated, or not interface, we'll have addresses associated with the sub-interfaces, but the physical interface itself must have no IP address. So we have selected the physical interface FA00 for configuration. We'll issue the command no IP address. Okay. Now what we'll do is I will configure the first sub-interface for VLAN 10. So in order to configure a sub-interface, we'll select the physical interface by typing interface FA00, and we will call it .10 because of it's VLAN 10. And now you see the prompt has changed now from a interface configuration like -if to -sub-if. And the command we use is encap encapsulation .1q for VLAN 10. And then we need to give this sub-interface a gateway, our gateway address, IP address. So we go at IP address, and we'll give it something appropriate for the sub-interface. Okay, and then a subnet mask. And we also need to do on this particular interface, we need to make sure that we do a no shutdown. In other words, we need to activate all the sub-interfaces that have been configured. So we'll go back and into the global configuration mode, and we will select the physical interface 00, and we'll say no shutdown. That will activate the sub-interfaces that have been configured on this physical interface. So here's the sub-interfaces 10, 20, and .30, change state to up. Okay, and we can see it looks like now that our links are indeed coming up on this router. Okay, now that it appears the configuration has been successful. It looks like all of our links are up. Let's go ahead and test connectivity between PC0 and PC2. That will involve sending ping communication packets up the sub interface to router 1, which will then in turn be routed back down the same trunk line to PC2 if everything is configured properly. So we'll open up the command prompt for PC2 and or for PC0 rather, and 2 the IP address is 3.30. So we'll go ping 92.168.3.30. And we'll watch this. And there it goes. So we have successfully pinged or established that we have connectivity now from PC0 through a sub-interface default gateway into router 1, which then looks up the destination address in its routing table and sends it back down the same trunking line, physical trunking line, but over to PC2. So that is how you configure sub-interfaces and for inter-VLAN routing. Thank you for watching this lesson on Cisco networking devices.